Surprise! It's Saturday Free Stuff Part 2. Since my other installment was the shortest ever, I figured it's only appropriate to do a second installment. The 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 after party, or the post breakdown. What am I trying to say? Uh, a debrief of what happened after the screening that I went to. Um, this is the next day because the night went long last night, and I didn't really even think ahead. This screening, it was a premiere at probably the most famous theater on the planet, and all of the important players were there, the stars of the film and the producers and director and writers, and people hobnobbing beforehand. Went in and watched this. I met my friend, one of the co-producers. He was one of the early investors, I guess. One of the co-producers of the film. We met for dinner prior, walked over to the theater, and then I started running into people that I know. Well, first he was introducing me to a few people that, his contacts, like some other producers that have worked on the film with him, and then I started running into people I knew. There's like an overlap. It's a small world, this town. Specific types of projects, you just kind of see the same people there. And one of my best friends in the world was there, and I was wondering if he'd be there, and he was. So it was a nice. I actually didn't locate him until after the film. He was seated like in the row in front of me, but at the other end. Anyway, so the screening was great, and then well-made film. I think it's an important film. I think anybody who's not familiar with the subject matter that watches this film, their eyes will be wide open. It's definitely an eye-opener if you're not paying attention to certain things going on in the world, etc. Let me make a little aside here. Documentaries, I think I've mentioned this in a previous episode. I no idea which one, when I would have mentioned this, but documentary film is, nobody goes into documentary film to make money. So maybe that'll help you envision what this screening was like. This isn't movie stars and glamour and glitz, red carpet kind of thing. It was very. There was a quote unquote red carpet, or when I say red carpet, I'm talking about very often the carpet is red, and then there's a backdrop that has like the name of the film and then any sponsors that are on the backdrop, and so all the notable players, the participants in the making of the film will walk along, and that's where that's where all the media and the press will get their pictures for the headlines or the websites and the news, interview bites, sound bites. Everybody that's expecting to be spoken to will walk down and turn and smile and have answers for whatever questions are asked. That's what I mean by the red carpet. So there was that. There was several places along where you could just stop and pose for pictures. Anyway, so documentary film, nobody would ever go into documentary film to try and make a bunch of money. It's 99.999% of the time, it's something the filmmakers believe in. Everybody that's involved believes wholeheartedly in this project. The filmmakers ideally are getting paid, sometimes a normal rate, but very often in documentary it's a reduced rate because of what I just said. It's a cause they believe in. But this is just a handful. I shouldn't say handful. It was a full theater. It was packed. But that handful of people are just people who believe very strongly in the subject matter, which I will not tell you. Sorry. It's not what this is about. And so then there was the Q&A, which I didn't. This film started, I think it was scheduled to start at 6:30. It might have started around 7, but maybe it started on time. But then there's a Q&A, a very brief Q&A at the end with the two main stars of the film and the director and one of the producers, and the thank yous and the recognition of other people in the crowd, you know, the normal stuff, people that were involved in the film that were there, stand up, etc. And then there's an after party. I didn't even, you know, he's kind of spaced that. That's normal for a premiere, and totally spaced that. So the after party was very close by, and you just get to go and hang and talk to people, and that's actually really the main point of going. I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't even think. I knew I would run into people I knew, but I didn't think about, you know, you think you get to talk to them maybe a little before, maybe a little after the film, but the after party, it goes on for hours. You know, I left around, I don't know, 11:30, so not super late, but later than normal for me. I used to stay up really late, but lately I have not been staying up so late. Anyway, so what am I saying? I ran into or was in close proximity to some people that I respect very highly. I'm not really a person who gets starstruck. I don't care who it is. It doesn't matter. You know, I don't. It's not that I'm the opposite, that I don't care. Like, if living in this town, you're going to see people that you recognize all the time, living and working in this town. You'll be on elevators with actors that you've seen in 50 films. You might not be able to remember their name, but you'll certainly recognize them. You just be polite if you want. Say, oh, I really enjoyed the work you did in such and such project. And that's appreciative. I've never, ever asked anyone for an autograph or anything like that. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just not the kind of person I am. But one of the people I highly respect, at the after party, I saw that he was, it was later, and he's walking, kind of not by himself, he was with another person, but those kind of people, they expect people to come up to them, and they are gracious, for the most part, very gracious about it. And so I just wanted to chat with them a little bit, and I did, and didn't say, hi, my name is, and I just, it's a person who's in the public eye that is very outspoken about their opinions, and I wanted to agree and share some of my thoughts, and he appreciated it. It was a brief exchange, and I let him go on his way and went on my way. Treat him like a human being, because that's what they are. All famous people are just humans that happen to be in the spotlight, that causes some people to look at them differently. So this is just the real bare bones breakdown of the evenings. The after party. Oh, I was going to get to this and I got sidetracked. I'm glad this is a Saturday special, because this is virtually incoherent and rambling. But one of the things, this is a part of the job. If you work in this town, going to a premiere may sound like, oh, it's glamorous and how exciting. It's actually work. It's just a necessary part of the business. If you work in this town, you gotta be there. You gotta show up. If you get invited, it's nice to get invited. And if you get invited, you should show up and get FaceTime with people. And so there were several people there that are friends of mine that I've collaborated with in the past on projects, and that I'm, hoping to collaborate with again. And actually, the writer of this film did a budget for me. He's a producer slash writer, and he did a budget for one of the projects. If you listen to episode 7 projects, I think I have an episode. I think it's called 7 projects. A couple weeks ago, he did a budget for like project number 4 or 5 on that list, something that's kind of in the hopper, waiting to be pitched. It hasn't even really been pitched to anyone yet, but so I ran into him, and he actually wrote this documentary. So, and the project I'm talking about that he did the budget for is also a documentary. And so the co-producer that I went with, that invited me, he's like, well, hopefully yours will be the next one they do. Oh, that is a loud helicopter. Anyway, going to these things, you have to be an extrovert. Yeah, I guess you don't have to be. If you're, let me put it this way: if you're on your way up or working your way up, it's to your advantage to be extroverted, or force yourself to be extroverted, to introduce yourself to somebody, whether you know them or not. Just be talkative. You never know who you're standing next to, who you're talking to. The faces that you recognize are one thing, but there are 1,000 other people behind the scenes doing things, very influential and important people behind the scenes doing things. And if you could establish a relationship with somebody, even if they're not high up, if you establish a friendship with somebody from a movie screening, that person could get maybe on their way up, and they could get hired, and they could be looking for somebody that does what you do and remember you and your friendship and call you up and say, hey, I got promoted to this thing and I'm looking for somebody that does what you do. Are you available? That's just how it works. It's called networking. And so I networked, but it was kind of an easy networking because I had so many other friends there that knew so many more people than I knew. I had my circle, like the people that I knew personally, by face, by name, that would recognize me. Let me count them. Let's see. Not a lot, but let's see. 1, including the guy I went with. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. So those are the people I hung out with, and then they had other people that they knew that they're hanging out with. So I was getting introduced, and there's this one guy that I think is probably a very valuable contact. Well, I think each person that I met and talked to is a valuable contact. And so I got contact information from each person that I had a good, meaningful conversation with. Some people come and have their business card and hand it to you, so I got a couple of those. I don't do business cards. I don't know if it's a thing of the past or if it's just, I don't know. I exchange phone numbers is enough. And so there was one guy that I'd heard his name before, and I knew that some of my friends knew him, and ended up in a conversation with him at the very end. Like, he was like the last conversation I had. It was me and 2 of my friends and him, and just talking about life in the world and stuff like that. And I have this one friend who knows what I'm working on, and he's like, oh, he goes, oh, he's working on this kind of project, and you'd probably be interested in talking to him about it. And it's nice to have another friend say that about you in your presence, rather than you having to push yourself. And so, especially if the person that says it is credible and respected. And so it was a productive evening in that regard, and it was exactly what I expected. It would be a fun evening of hanging out. I don't drink much anymore. I used to be a heavy drinker, but I really don't drink alcohol. I mean, I've never liked beer much. There are beers that I really do like. I'm not saying I don't like beer, but there are beers that I really do like. But as far as being a beer drinker, regularly. It's never been me. Hard liquor I like, but again, first of all, it's so expensive. But I've gotten to the point where I if I'm going to drink, I will drink a shot of whiskey, or 4 fingers of whiskey, no ice, just, it's called neat, I think. Without, not mixed with anything, just straight a good quality whiskey, and I'll sip it and I'll nurse it, and I've actually acquired a taste for it. Never, when you're a kid and you want to get, let's not go in that direction. So one of my friends was, you could tell by the end of the evening, he's always talkative, but when he starts slurring a little bit and rambling on, that was kind of fun to watch. He didn't embarrass himself. It's just, you can tell he's probably 5 or 6 drinks in. Anyway, I am really digressing here, making this extra Saturday free stuff a little bit longer. So that's the breakdown. It was a good screening. I think it was timely for me. I've been cranking away on my stuff and with my head buried, not really being out there socially, and because I'm not working on a project with other people, like in a studio or in an office. I don't get much interaction like that right now. I've had plenty of that, but because of this project number 1, I'm real focused on it. So this is a nice breath of fresh air to get out and see some friends and make some more contacts, and see if any of them turn out to be significant players in the direction of project number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7. It's all about making friends. It's not really work when you work with your friends. Why would anyone want to do anything different? All right, that's it. Signing off.